To understand the types of methods with some requirement, the next topic which you have to understand is method declaration. Method declaration. So initially I'll go with some examples to understand the syntax only and the types of methods. But once we got the basics right, then we go for real-time scenarios from simple to the challenging requirements. So here, the first requirement, declare a method, say method m1, which takes no input and returns no output. In class, some class A. So this is one requirement. So at the same time, let me add one more to tell you some internal points. Declare another method, say method m2 in same class, which takes no input and returns integer and returns integer into value. This is the requirement. Yeah. So here, till you become perfect or directly by reading the description or by understanding the requirement, if you can write a Java syntax for this directly, it's fine. But till you get that practice right, so I recommend you to go for a diagrammatic approach, which makes us to understand and write bit easy. So for that, initial one or two examples I'll explain with diagrammatic approach. Then later on, I'll be writing directly with Java syntax only. You should be in a position to write directly also. So to start with, so first declare a method m1, so which takes some no inputs and no output, where in class A. So this is indirectly conveying a point that class will consist of variables and also methods we discussed, and here we are going to use it. So first, if I use a diagram for this class. So this is a class A. This outer box is nothing but class A. Inside this class, what is possible? Variables and methods. So I'm not mixing up with both. Currently, I'm going to discuss only with methods. So here I'm using one box to represent a method. What's the name of the method? When something is already given in the requirement, recommended to follow. Then as per our discussion or in the types of methods concept, we discuss something like inputs. Inputs we are writing to the left hand side of the diagram. So here what is the input? No input. That's why I'm using a cross mark to represent no input. And here what's the output? No output. So here also I'm using a cross mark. So this is first method. So to convert this diagram into Java syntax, what to write? First, write the class. What's the class syntax? Access modifier public, class keyword, then followed by class name, open and close curly brace, class body. This is a class syntax. Then where the method has to be? Inside a class. Method is inside a class. So here also within these curly braces, we have to define a method. So what's the method syntax? Access modifier. So first public, then followed by what's next value? Return type. So that is nothing but output of the program. That's why I'm numbering that as 1. So what's the return type? No value. Therefore, void is a keyword. In lowercase letters, we have to use it. Then step 2, method name. What's the method name? m1. Correct? Then open parenthesis. Third step, any inputs or no inputs? That's why simply close this parenthesis. If inputs are there, we are going to write some int data type with some variable name and all. So in this scenario, no inputs. Then open curly brace, closed curly brace of the method body. That's all. That's all. This is the method declaration where a method can be declared within the class. And with the method syntax, access modifier, then return type, then method name, then method inputs. That's all. Clear? Next, let us go for the second requirement, which is asked to give, write it. So for this, declare another method name yum2, where in same class. So first, if I go for diagrammatic format, so this is my method name is yum2 in the same class. That's why I'm writing inside the same class A box. Then which takes what input? No inputs. And which returns what? Int. So I'm using one arrow to represent the int. So this is my diagrammatic format for the second method. Then what's the Java syntax for this? So because it is mentioned within the same class, so inside this curly brace only we have to write it. Then can we write somewhere in the inside of previous method? No. After closing of the previous method only, it is proper way to write the syntax of second method. We can't write one method inside the other method. Okay. Then for second method to start with, first access modifier, say public. Then what's the first step? Return type is a step 1. So what is the return type? Int. So we have to use a primitive type int in lowercase letters. Then step 2, method name, that is yum2. Then open parenthesis, any inputs? Then simply close the parenthesis. Then open curly brace, closed curly brace is a method body. That's it. So this is the second method declaration and in the same class. So here one more next important point. So does the first method is returning anything? No. Because return type is void or because no value is returned from the method, the return type is what? So this is no value will be returned from this method because its type is a void type. But is it a void type? No. When return type is other than void type, I repeat, when return type is other than void type, then it inside a method, we must use a return statement by using return predefined keyword. Return is a predefined keyword, so completely in lowercase letters, and we have to use this return statement. Then what we are supposed to return? Any integer. So here return space, some I'm using some 100. Is it one integer? Yes. Therefore, then end the line with a semicolon. That's the difference between methods with no return type as void. No return keyword is allowed to use there. If you are using, then we are wrong. And if return type is other than void type, then without using return type, we are wrong. That's why we must use a return statement by using a return predefined keyword. Yeah. Then if you ask me like how this method will be executed and all, if that question is there in your mind, that's the process of our learning. So we are just only understanding method syntax where we can write a methods. Yeah, we can write methods or it is allowed to write methods inside a class body only. We can't write them outside. And here internally one more point. A class can have how many methods? N number of methods. So in this example, I'm trying to show only 2. Can we have one more method called M3? Yes. M4? Yes. M100? Yes. All those of things are possible. That's an internal point to convey. Methods will be written inside a class. A class can have N number of methods. If it is void, return statement is not allowed. If it is not a void, then return statement must be there. Understood? And one more point, 100 is integer type of value or integer type of variable? 100 is this is nothing but one more point to understand. We can return the value. So this 100 is not value only. We can return value. Yeah. What else we can return? We can return a variable also that I'll discuss. This is a int value. So while using return statement, we can use the value approach. And with next example, I'll try to cover variable approach also. Both are possible. So in this example, not too many things at the same time. So I'm covering one example of we can return a value. Yeah. And if you remember the types of methods, so what are the types of methods that we discussed in the previous slide? No inputs, no output. No input with output. So this is what my example also suggests. No input, no output, no input with output. This is one syntax. Am I clear? Sure. Okay. Next requirement. So for this, let me write the next requirement, please. And I want you to try. Just give a try. You can write in your books. Declare a method yum3 which takes string and boolean inputs and returns no value. Then declare another method yum4 in, okay, so here in class, some class B, in same class which takes int input and returns character. Yeah. So these are two requirements which I'm giving, and I'll give you 5 minutes time. Please do write in your books. Don't worry about right or wrong. Just write what you understood. It's fine to make a mistake, but it's not fine to make the same mistake. So again, since I said for first 2 or 3 examples, I'm going to use the diagrammatic approach to make it simple. So for this, first I'm using one box to represent a class where the class name is given as class B. In class B is mentioned, right? So then followed by inside this class, first method name is also given. So I'm using method name yum3. Then which takes a string and a boolean inputs. So please don't forget this. Inputs will be writing towards the left hand side. So one is string. So since we know string, yes, must be capital. Then boolean, everything in lowercase letters. Then followed by which returns no value. That's why here nothing is output. No output. That's what I mean. It's not something wrong. Okay. So again, I have to correct that then. If that is the case, so I'll write its a word called as no output. So this is the first method. So as we know that the methods will be inside a class. So first class syntax public class, some class name, B is a class. Inside this class body, then first method, so with access modifier public. Then what's return type? Return type of method is nothing but, so from step 1, so which says no output, that's why void is a return type. Then step 2, method name, that is yum3. Then step 3, inputs. So how many inputs? 2 inputs. First one is string, then data type is string. Some variable must be taken. So I'm using some yes, anything of program or choice. Then comma separation for next input. Second input type boolean and a variable name. Can we use yes once again? No. So here we can be anything other than yes. So we can't use yes once again. So I'm using B for boolean. Then the method body to start with open curly brace, then close curly brace. I'm sorry. Open curly brace, close curly brace. So what's return type? Void. Any return statement is required? No return statement. We can have the method logic. As of now, you might have some questions still. What this string yes is doing, what this boolean B is doing, what is the purpose of these variables when we are not returning anything and all. These questions will be there in your mind. I know that. But with my coming examples, all these will be answered. Okay, that's why no return value since it's a void type. Then second requirement, declare another method yum4 in same class. So first I'll go for diagram. There is a yum4 in the same class, that is class B. Then which takes int input. So here is input called as int and returns character. So there is an output here, one output only, which is possible in Java. That's character. So for this to write the method syntax, so first I'll give the numbering 1, then 2, and then 3. What's the method syntax? Access modifier. So till we know or till we understand the remaining access modifiers, public only we are going to use. Then return type. What's the return type? Char in lowercase letters. Then method name M4. Then open parenthesis. Input type int, one variable, say I. Then the method body. So now what is there? Return type is void type or non-void type? Non-void type. Then what we must use? Return statement must be used. What we have written? Character. So here, like in the previous example, I used a value approach. Now here we are going to understand two different approaches. One is value based, one is variable based. So first thing, directly can we go for return statement? Yes. Since we have written something, then that has to be returned by using a return statement with return predefined keyword. Then what we have written? Character. So if I use something alphabet A, is it a character or not? Or at the rate symbol, is it a character or not? Then semicolon. It's a character value or character variable? Character value. So if it is a character value, as per the syntax, character values must be enclosed inside a single quotes. That's why it must be enclosed in a single quotes, because it is a char value. Understood? Then I said there is a second possibility also. That second possibility, any one of these is allowed. Don't write both. Just I am using or for our understanding. The second possibility is, since it's a character value and it must be enclosed in single quotes, can we store into some variable of programmer choice with a type as character? Possible or not possible? Correct? This is what we discussed in data types, right? Now, since the return type of method is character, then we must use a return statement here also. And return, in the previous approach, we are using a value to return directly. Now, in this example, I am using ch to return. It's a value or variable. Then is it correct? Or should enclose that in single quotes or double quotes like that? No. So this is a char variable. So these are the two possibilities. We can follow any one of these. Either return the value directly or return the variable also, which is same as the return type of the method. The return type of the method and return value. Return type of the method, return variable type must match. Then only our method is syntax completely right. Otherwise, we'll be wrong. Understood? Yeah. So this is the Java code for this second requirements, where again a class can have methods with input, without output, methods with input, and also with output as well. Yeah, I covered all the four discussed types. So with these four examples. Any questions here? No? What did you write exactly? No. Return char is a data type. So we can't return a data type. We have to return a value or a variable. Understood, guys? Yeah, sure. Okay. Then, so with this understanding, there are so many internal things to understand furthermore. So since it is our first day of methods introduction, so I'm with examples in tomorrow's class. I'll go with some important points as well. So for us to understand what is the logical task of a method. So here I am taking one more requirement. And in my previous examples, very clearly class name is given, method name is given, input is given, return type is given. Do we think in real time scenario everything will be given? They'll just simply throw the requirement. So that's why here also I'm trying to throw the same type of requirement. Define a method. Define a method to return area of rectangle. So still we didn't discuss about how do we execute those methods and all. So we are only still in the concept of declaration of a methods only. So for the same thing, define or declare a method to return area of a triangle. So a method has to return area of a triangle. Understood? This is the requirement. Then here, where is the method name? Where is the class? What is input? What's return value? These all has to understand by developer or programmer only. With the requirement only everything. Hint is there indirectly everything. So for that, let us understand this requirement. So first, to find the area of a rectangle, what is required? Mathematical formula, area is nothing but what? Length into breadth, right? So here, length into breadth is a mathematical formula. Yeah, so length and breadth are the inputs, rightly said. So just short form, I'll use L into B instead of length into breadth. So L into B is the area formula, whereas A for area. This is a mathematical formula, not Java formula. So for this, what will be the inputs here? L and B. So L and B are inputs. What type they can be? They can be integers. So inputs, L and B are inputs and will be int type. Correct? Yeah, I'll come to that. So let me keep it simple. They are int type. So when we multiply two integer values, then what's the result? Area. Yeah, area will be what type then? Integer type only. It's an input or output? It is a output of the method or return value of the method. Correct? That's it. What is input? L and B are inputs. What's the return type? Int is a return type as output of the method. That's all. Then what's the meaningful method name? Area can be meaningful method name. What's a meaningful class name? Rectangle itself is a meaningful class name. So this is what we have to understand. So for this requirement, now let us write the Java syntax. What is the first thing? Class. So public class, some class name, rectangle. So within this class body, the next part is method. What's the method syntax? Access modifier. First, what is the access modifier? Public. The next, what's the return type? Output is int type. So for sometimes we cannot decide the initial part. We cannot decide. So let us assume I didn't understand what's return type. The next, what's the method name? Meaningful method name is get area. So that get and all we'll understand later. So as of now, area is a method. What are the inputs? Two inputs. So int data type space L is a variable name, comma separation. Then again int B is the next variable. Then the method body. Then what's the logical task in this? Finding the area is a logical task. How to find the area? L into B is the area formula. So if you multiply L into B, then result has to be stored into some variable name. So let me go for A is the area or AR is the area. Okay. Then, so L into B, integer into integer. When we multiply two integers, the result type will be what type? Int type. Correct? Now what we are going to return? AR we are going to return, which will be of integer type. Even at this point of line also, we can understand the return type will be integer. Initially, if we can't guess it, then after writing the logical part also, we can come to a conclusion. Then we can write the return type. Okay, but programmatically, without typing, a compiler is keep on giving the errors, so no confusions. So AR is what here? Integer. Did you define before? Then can we use without defining? That's why int is mandatory.
Like already in L and B are defined, so automatically.
Now, for example, if I am taking 10 and a variable name is X, is it correct? So we have to mention the type of that variable mandatory. So that's why, did we mention the type of AR before? No, for L we mentioned it before. Therefore, we can use it. But did we mention for AR? No, that's why it's mandatory. Understood? Yeah. Then, what's next point? Since our return type is a value type, not a void type, then we must use the return statement by using return predefined keyword, then return, then space. What is this return value? In terms of variable approach, we can go for. So here is a return variable we are using. Yeah, understood this part? Then can we club these two lines together? Can we make instead of these two lines, can you write one single line only? Yes, we can write it. So what is that? Value based approach. So how can we return that? So directly, because return type is there, so we have to use the return keyword. Then what it has to return? The area. So how can we perform that? L into B, then semicolon. So this is the variable approach. This is the value approach. We can write this one line also directly. But initially to be more clear, so I recommend you to follow this approach only. So once you are familiar with this, then you can go for short lines of code. Clear? Is it right or anything is mistake? There is one mistake in this. Do you identify? In our entire code, there is one mistake there. So here is a class, then followed by method, then followed by method logic, then return statements. Okay, maybe we didn't discuss that. So when it comes to mathematics, into is a symbol which will be using X, capital X. But when it comes to programming language, into will never work. It throws error, or it's a capital X actually. It's a star or asterisk is a symbol to perform. Asterisk is a symbol to multiply in any programming language. Yeah, that's it. So this is how a real time requirement will be just a simple line of code, and we were expect to write this code. And here return variable approach with two lines of code, return value approach with one line of code also. Any both are correct only, use any one. And initial part, I recommend you to use this approach. Once you are thorough with this, then you can go for a concise code. That is one line approach only. Clear? Clear. Next, to practice these things. So again, how to get this area result execution and all, this is our tomorrow's task. Not today. I'm not discussing anything about it. How do we execute this area method? But I'm giving some practice for you. Same thing we are going to execute after tomorrow's class discussion. Your assignment or practice for the day. So again, I'm just simply giving a requirement. Declare a method to return perimeter of rectangle. Perimeter of rectangle. So a mathematic formula for this perimeter, P equals 2 parenthesis L plus B. The next, declare a method to return area and perimeter of square. So after tomorrow's class discussion, these things will become more interesting because we are going to execute them and all. So here one last point, the mathematical formulas I'm going to give. So for this area, the area is side into side, and for the square, the mathematical formula for perimeter, I clearly mentioning mathematical formula. The perimeter is 4 into side. So methods will be inside a class. If they belong to the same class, then we must write them in a single class only. So what I mean to say, inside rectangle class only area method and perimeter method should be there. Inside one square class only area and perimeter method should be there. That's how you have to write. So please have a practice And if you are having any doubts at any point of time, reach me out, because we are not going to execute them in Eclipse today. So you are not going to type in any Eclipse. Just you are going to write in your books. That's what is my expectation. And
Can we use this like put this like